participate in this Sankirtan. Mahaprabhu's appearance happened by the Western calendar on the 18th of February, 1486. And so I was curious and I went and checked. There is a website called nasa.gov where they record all the lunar eclipses that have happened over the last 3,000 years. And there's a lunar eclipse that actually is recorded on that day. So he appeared 11 and a half hours after sunrise. And it was the month of Phagun. It was Purnima, full moon day, as it is today. And because of the eclipse, which is considered to be inauspicious, everybody was bathing in the river Ganga and saying Hari 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 Hari. And so at that time India was under the Muslim rule. So the Muslims, they were having a lot of fun, saying, look at these Hindus, they're taking bath and they're shouting, and they're saying Hari 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 Hari. So even they were saying Hari 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 Hari. So Mahaprabhu, when he appeared, he got everybody to chant Hari Hari. And then at an auspicious time, in Navadvip Dham, in one of the islands called Antradvip, in a place called Yogapeeth, under a tree, under a neem tree, the Lord appeared. And when he appeared, then everything became very auspicious. There was peace all around. There was harmony, fraternity. It was almost like there was a powerful surge of devotional energy that spread all over the place. Even enemies were embracing one another. There was so much of happiness and goodwill all around. So wanted to speak a little bit about the desire of Krishna when he appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when Krishna appeared as Krishna in Dwapar Yuga, he appeared as Swayam Bhagwan. He didn't appear as an avatar, but he appeared as an avatari. So this particular day of Brahma is called the Saraswat Kalpa. In the Saraswat Kalpa, we are in, there are 72, in every Kalpa, there are 72 Manus. And we are in the you remember, Prabhu, which Manvantar we are? I forget. But this is the reign of Swayambhavu Manu. In the reign of Swayambhavu Manu, we are in the 28th Divya Yuga. So there are 4 yugas, so we are in the 28th Divya Yuga. This is a very special Divya Yuga that appears once only in an entire day of Brahma. One day of Brahma, including the light, how long is it? It is 8.64 billion years, very long time. So we'll have to wait for 8.64 billion years for this time to come again. And this yuga is special because Krishna comes not once, but he comes twice. And because Krishna comes twice, we see that the order of the yugas are changed. So in the other Chatur yugas, what follows? Satyuga. Dwapar. Right? 2. Second yuga. What follows Dwapar? Treta. 3. And then Kali Yuga. But because this is a special yuga, the order of the yugas are changed, and before Dwapar, Treta Yuga appears. And then Dwapar Yuga appears. And then towards the end of the Dwapar Yuga, Krishna appears himself as Swayam Bhagwan. And towards the beginning of Kali Yuga, Krishna appears again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like Krishna, is eternal. So Krishna appears and disappears like the sun. Sometimes people ask that before Krishna spoke the Gita, where was the Gita? where was Dharma? Or before Krishna was born in Vrindavan, where was Krishna? Who was God then? Krishna is always God. He's always there. The sun is always there. At night, we don't see it because it's shining somewhere else. So when a person says that the sun is gone, it is the a reflection of the ignorance of the person. They don't have the Shastra Chakshu to know that the sun is shining somewhere else. So similarly, Mahaprabhu is eternal. There is a pastime in the Brahma Vaivat Purana that once Sukadeva Goswami, he sat down to do in Navadvip Dham. He sat down to do Chaitanya Katha. And the news spread all over the universe that Sukadeva Goswami is going to be speaking about the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Shiva heard about it. And he became very, very anxious to participate in that assembly. So he mounted Nandi. And from Shivlok, he started traveling to Bhulok. And he's traveling and he tells Nandi, go faster, go faster. Nandi is like, I'm a bull, there can't really go much faster. So then Lord Shiva gets exasperated. And so Shivlok is higher than Brahmalok. So then he passes the board of Lord Brahma. And he tells Lord Brahma, this Nandi is not helping me out much, can I borrow your swan? Brahma says, okay. So he takes the swan carrier. And then he travels and he comes and he spends wonderful time listening to the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from the mouth of Sukadeva Goswami. And then when he is returning, he feels so much of separation from Mahaprabhu that his body starts burning. And in order to alleviate the heat of separation, because the body of the swan is cooler, so he leans onto the body of the swan and goes into almost a stupor of semi-consciousness. 14th mantra. We are in the 14th mantra. And you could come back to me. So he falls. He leans forward on the body of the swan, and he just stays there. So there is a temple in Antardweep that was built where the deity of Lord Shiva is in this position of leaning on the body of the swan. And the deity is so hot that they keep it submerged in water for 364 days a year. This is in the Alakananda lake. They keep the deity submerged. And then one day, they will take the deity out, they will smear with chandan to cool, and then everybody will come and worship the deity. And the deity is special, that you take a flower, and you say, will this be my last life? And throw it at the deity. If it's indeed going to be your last life, the deity will throw the flower back at you. So, some people say, will I get ₹1 lakh and throw this? People come for different reasons. There's almost like more than 3 to 5 lakhs people who congregate on this particular day. So Mahaprabhu is eternal. He's always there. Some people say that he appeared in West Bengal. He's a Bengali and later day saint. But Mahaprabhu, just like Krishna is eternal, Mahaprabhu is also eternal. So Krishna gives in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, he gives 3 external and 3 internal reasons for the appearance of Krishna as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the first external reason is the prayers of Advaita Acharya. So Advaita Acharya was the leader of the Vaishnavas in the community, and then he looked around himself and he saw that there was so much of degradation that was done, even in the name of Vaishnavism, let alone non-Vaishnavas. So that particular region was predominantly Kali Upasakas. So they would worship Kali. And so it's very strong influence of the Muslims. People were deviating. So Advaita Acharya, he had a Shaligram Shila, and then he would go into the river Ganges, and he would worship the Shaligram Shila with Ganges and Tulsi. Most potent way to worship Shaligram Shila. Srila Prabhupada would say that Grasta should have Shaligram Shilas and worship with Tulsi and Gangajal, and following the footsteps of Advaita Acharya. And then in a very loud voice, he would call upon Krishna that you have to come, you have to rescue your devotees. So this is the mood of devotees. That they are paraduktuki. They feel the pain of others more keenly than even the others are feeling the pain themselves. And we see that mood in Narad Muni. That Narad Muni, he is so compassionate that he is there to extend his mercy to everybody. Once Narad Muni, and this is in the Kali Sanatana Upanishad, that because he is Trikalakya, he could see in the future. And then he saw this age of Kali coming. So he went to Lord Brahma and he says, what is the hope for the people in the age of Kali? That there is so much of sins that will be committed. Sarang Prabhu was showing me a video yesterday of how the Chinese government is exterminating so many animals, and I would not recommend that you watch it because it's stuff that will give you nightmares. That they have dug a hole and they are literally pushing millions of animals in the hole. They're putting like fuel on them and lighting them on fire. And then you see the animals, they are slowly dying, roasting to death. It's really horrific to see it. So Narad Muni, he sees all this and he goes to Lord Brahma. And he says, there is so much of sin, so much of degradation in this age of Kali. What is the hope for the people? And then Lord Brahma, he recites this verse. Kali Sanatana Upanishad is one of the smallest Upanishads. It's got just 3 verses. So he recites this verse. So he says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashkar Namanam Kali Kalantara Nashanam Nath Paratropaya Sarvadeshe Drishyatu. So he gives the mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, and then he says Iti Shodashkam Namanam. That this mantra, which has Shodashkam, which has 16 names, Kali Kalantara Nashanam, that will destroy all the kalantram, all the impurities, all the sins in this age of Kali. Nath Paratrupaya Sarvavedeshe Drishyatu. That after having scrutinized all the Vedas thoroughly, this is the conclusion. Another time Narad Muni, he goes to Lord Vishnu and he asks the same question, that what is the redemption for the people in the age of Kali? Because at the end of Dwapar Yuga you will leave. And when you leave, then religiosity and renunciation will leave along with you. So what is the hope for them? And then Lord Vishnu, this is I believe it's in the Padma Puran, he says that Naam Trishati Vaikuntha Yogi Naam Trishatu Vaikuntha Yogi Naam Apiva Tesham Trishanti Narada Tatra Trishanti Narada Yatra Gayanti Madbhakta. He says Naam Trishami Vaikuntha. That in this age of Kali, you will not find me in Vaikuntha. Does not mean that he disappears from Vaikuntha, but he is not accessible to us. So now, Trishanti Vaikuntha Yogina Hridayeshuva, nor in the heart of the yogis. So the yogis, they perform severe penances, very strong austerities, in order to be able to purify to see the Lord in the heart. Says, Yoginam Hridayeshu va, not in the heart of the yogis. Yatatra Shanti Narada, but I will be found in one place. Yatra Gayanti Madhvakta. Wherever my devotees are singing my name. So what may appear to be the age of degradation is actually also an age of opportunity. Because Krishna, who is accessible with great difficulty in other ages, Kritya Dhyayati, that in the age of Satya, through the process of meditation, Treta Yagate Maka, in the age of Treta, through the performance of elaborate sacrifice, Dwapare Parisharyaya, in the age of Dwapar, through opulent temple worship, Kalita Dharu Kirtana. Simply by Kirtan, one is accessible in the age of Kali. And Krishna is not as accessible in a reduced manner. It's not that one gets access to the shadow of Krishna or to Krishna Abhas. Krishna is accessible in his complete opulences as Sachidananda Vigraha. Why? Because of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's why he's available. So that was one of the external reasons, because the prayers of Advaita Acharya. The second reason was that he wanted to establish the Yuga Dharma of Harinam Sankirtana. So this is the Yuga Dharma. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam, kalau nastev, nastev gatir anyatha. Right? 3 times it said that no karma, no jnana, no dhyan. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva. Eva means exclusively, only, kevalam. Emphasis, eva kevalam. So in Sanskrit, sometimes repetition is an ornament that is used for emphasis. So eva kevalam. Kalau nastev, nastev, nastev katiranyata. Not this, not this, not this. No karma, no jnana, no dhyan. But only Harinam, Harinam, Harinam. Only the chanting of the holy name. So Mahaprabhu came for that purpose. And the third purpose is, as he declares in the Bhagavad Gita, that for Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya cha Dushkritam, to protect his devotees and to destroy the miscreants. But when Mahaprabhu says that Sangopagastu Parshadam, what are the weapons that he uses to destroy the miscreants? His weapon is the same benediction that is given to his devotees, the chanting of the holy name. He did not come with, like when Lord Ram came, he came with his bow and arrow, and Krishna came, but Krishna didn't have any weapons, Balaram came with a plow, and when Krishna stepped out of Vrindavan, then he had his weapons. But Mahaprabhu did not have any weapons. His weapons were the same benediction that he is giving to his devotees. So one can understand the depth of compassion in the heart of Mahaprabhu. That who would give those who are inimical to you the same gift that you're giving to those who are favorable to you. And even if you try to be most magnanimous, we might be neutral to our enemies. But Mahaprabhu, he does not make this distinction. He does not make the distinction between his devotees and his enemies. So when we see the Leela of Mahaprabhu, we see that he has given his mercy to all kinds of jivas. He gave his mercy to Jnanis, like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati. He gave his mercy to sinners like Jagai Madhai. He gave his mercy to the animals in the forest of Jharkhand. Right? His mercy was like rain. It fell equally on fertile land and equally on barren soil. But because the potency of the mercy, everywhere it fell, it sprouted. The Bhakti Lata beach. In addition to that, there are 3 internal reasons for which Mahaprabhu appeared. And the internal reasons are in his relationship to Srimati Radharani and his relationship to the devotees. So there are three aspects that make a relationship complete. The understanding of the sambandh, which is the nature of the relationship. Abhiday, which is how is the relationship practiced. And prayojan, which is what is the end fruit, what is the end result of that relationship. And Krishna wanted to experience these three things in the context of Srimati Radharani. So the first was that sambandh, that what does Radharani see in me? Because Krishna is always the ashraya, he's always giving shelter. He's the object. And the others are relating to him. So somebody comes and says, you're very handsome, you're very beautiful. You have to take the word of the other person. So when Krishna sees Srimati Radharani appreciating him, he says, what is it that Radharani sees in me that makes her appreciate me so much? He wanted to find that out. Then, what is the instantiation? Having established that nature of the relationship, how does Srimati Radharani act? So, in order to experience the activities of Srimati Radharani. And then finally was, what is the pleasure that Srimati Radharani feels? So then we see the last years, almost the last 6 years in the life of Mahaprabhu, he was in complete Mahabhav, which only Srimati Radharani can experience. Because even Krishna cannot experience that. He had to come as Radharani to experience that. So that was the three internal reasons for which Mahaprabhu came. And because Mahaprabhu is Krishna, he was able to accomplish all of it perfectly. Once Srila Prabhupada was giving a class, and then somebody raised his hand and said, Prabhupada, can Krishna create a riddle that no one can solve? So it was a trick question. That if he created a riddle that nobody can solve, then it meant that Krishna cannot solve the riddle. And if he cannot create a riddle, that means he's limited. And then Prabhupada, he had so much of presence of mind, without missing a beat, he says, yes, Krishna can create a riddle that nobody can solve. And then he'll go ahead and solve it. So when Mahaprabhu was coming, he had this riddle to solve. That the people in the age of Kali have very little interest in spirituality. How do I give them spirituality? The complication was that Krishna cannot give us bhakti. Do you know why Krishna can't give us bhakti? Because
he will be bound by the love and
that makes him reluctant to give bhakti. He will, but you're right. Krishna will give bhakti very easily. You say, Krishna, give me $100, he'll say, okay. Krishna will give mukti also easily. Give me liberation. Say, work a little bit, I'll give you liberation. Bhakti, because he sells himself, he's a little bit reluctant. But actually, Krishna is unable to give us bhakti. Because if bhakti is the greatest gift that Krishna can give. So if Krishna gave Mataji bhakti and did not give you bhakti, then he would be guilty of being partial. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Samom sarvabhuteshu name veshasti napika. I am equal to everybody. Yetham mam prapadyate tam tate bhajam. As one approaches me, I approach them. Now maybe this Mataji has no interest in Krishna's bhakti, but Krishna says, here is this gift of bhakti. And then you say, Krishna, I would like to remind you of chapter 9, verse 27. You specifically said there. So that's why Krishna, he cannot give bhakti. The greatest gift, if he gives to one, he has to give to all. So Krishna solved that by saying that maybe I cannot give bhakti, but my devotees can give bhakti. Because Krishna has already sold himself to his devotees. Wherever they give him, he will happily follow. So Krishna came in the garb of his own devotee. That's why he never declared his divinity, except to a very small, intimate group, and that also occasionally. He would show his divinity, but otherwise, anybody would say that you are Krishna, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would put his hands on his ears, and he would say, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. He would say, this is blasphemous. Don't speak like that. And this is also recorded. This is also recorded when the Namkaran Samskar of Krishna was done, then Garg Muni, he said that Krishna will come as Garga Shuklapi in 3 colors, in Rakta Shuklapi, in red, in black, and in yellow. So Mahaprabhu's incarnation is the yellow incarnation. And Prahlad Maharaj, in his praise to Narsingadev, he says that you are 3 yugi. You come in 3 yugas, because in the 4th yuga, you come as a Channa avatar. You come in the garb of your own devotee. So when Krishna came as a devotee, he was freed of the restriction of being impartial. He was happily distributing bhakti. When Krishna came as Swayam Bhagwan, he came in Madhurya Ras. No one before, no incarnation before that showed God in such an intimate mood. Of Krishna carrying the slippers of Nand Baba on his head, of Krishna being tied by Srimati Radharani, of Krishna being beaten by sticks by the gopis. Never seen Lord Narayana in that mood. He is Aishwarya Bhav. Krishna came in Madhurya Bhav. And the reason that he enacted these leelas was to attract the minds of the devotees. And he says that Am tum sar papebhyo mokshyami masucha. Right? But before that, he put one condition. What was the condition he put?
Surrender.
Sarvadam pratyaje maam ekam sharna. Before that, you have to surrender. Once you surrender to me, am tum sar papebhyo mokshyami, I will give you everything that you need. But Mahaprabhu, he does not put any condition. He came in the Audalya Bhav, which is the personification of mercy. And when he came, he did not come to give us bhakti. Because when a great man comes, he comes to do great things. When God comes to do great things. So he did not come to give us just bhakti. He came to give us something even greater than bhakti, which is Krishna Prem. So by bhakti, we can go back to the spiritual world. But with Krishna Prem, we can go to Golok Vrindavan. We can have the personal association of Krishna there. And how did he do that? He did that by making us follow in his footsteps. So in the Nectar of Devotion, when they mention about the different advancements in the stage of devotion, it starts with where we are, which is Sadhana Vaidhi Bhakti. And then after many lifetimes of perfecting Sadhana Vaidhi Bhakti, one goes into the stage of Raghunag. So Raghunag Bhakti is that. So Sadhana Vaidhi Bhakti is that we are, for the lack of a better word, we are pretending to be devotees. Right? Our heart's not in it, but our mind is there. We know this is what we want to do. That's why we follow the path. We get up in the morning, our mind says sleep for some little longer time. We say no, we have to chant our rounds. So we chant our rounds. By the time we are on a 15th round, we are like, okay, just one more round left, right? And quickly, as soon as the round is done, big bag there, Hare Krishna. It's done, right? So we are doing it not because we have this, sometimes of course we do have it, but more generally when we are in Sangha, we have that, but not often we have. So we are by Vidhi is that as per Vidhi, sadhana means that we practice. Then Raghunag is again we practice, but we practice spontaneous devotion. So Raghunag Bhakti is we are following the footsteps of a Ragatmika, of a perfected devotee, and then by following, so we do what the perfected devotees do or ask us to do. So that is Raghunag Bhakti, which then leads us to Bhav and Prem. So what Mahaprabhu said was, it will take these people too long to do Sadhana Vedi, Raghunag, Ragatmika. So he says, follow me. So when we are following Srimati Radharani is the Param Ragatmika. There is nobody greater than her in devotion to Krishna. She is so great that even Krishna is defeated by her. Krishna says, there is nothing that I can do to reciprocate your devotion. So this is God speaking, who can do anything. And even he surrenders to her. He says, there is nothing that I can do to reciprocate your love. So please accept that love itself as my gratitude here. And when Mahaprabhu comes as Radharani and says, you follow me, we are following Srimati Radharani, the topmost Ragatmika. So while we are practicing Sadhana Vedi Bhakti, we are also practicing Raghunatha Bhakti. Why do we worship Tulsi Devi? That is Raghunatha Bhakti. Srila Prabhupada gave us the worship of Tulsi Devi in the morning. We worship Guru and then we worship Tulsi Devi. So what do we say in the prayers of Tulsi Devi? That Radha Krishna Seva Papu, Ei Abhilashi. We are directly asking, so here we have problems chanting, and we are asking directly, Radha Krishna Seva Papu, Ei Abhil, Mori Ei Abhilash, Ki Vilash Kunje Diyovas. Right? We barely have a thatched hut. We are asking for the penthouse in New York, right? Right? We want to live in Vraj, not in Vaikuntha. Right? Not even in Vrindavan. Directly we want to live in where the intimate pastimes of Radha Krishna are being enacted. And Srila Prabhupada gave that because Bhaktisiddhanta gave that because that is the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That our sadhana is only our offering to attract the mercy of Mahaprabhu. In itself, our sadhana is nothing. Right? When we see the sadhakas of the past, thousands and thousands of years, Vishwamitra, 60,000 years, performing so many austerities there. Right? Our sadhana is minuscule. But what is beautiful is our small offering that we are making to one who is most magnanimous. When Krishna came, he said, you come to me and I will liberate you. Mahaprabhu is running after us. We are running away, he is running after us. When Srila Prabhupada was traveling in the plane, and he was dressed as a sannyasi, of course. So somebody came and said, are you from Indian origin? He said, are you a sannyasi? I said, yes. And he said, I heard that sannyasis, they don't travel in planes. Why are you traveling in a plane? Prabhupada said that in this age, people are running away from me in a plane, so I have to travel in a plane. So, what can I do? So that's the mood of Mahaprabhu that has come down. That he does not mind that we are running away from him, that we take the holy name with such a cavalier attitude, right? We chant and we think of something else, and sometimes we chant quickly, sometimes we chant imperfectly. He does not mind. He says, okay, fine. Radha Govind Maharaj gives this very funny example that sometimes when you're eating, then your tongue gets caught between your teeth and it hurts your tongue. And then he says that the tongue does not say that let's break these teeth and throw them away, they're useless there. So that's the mood of Mahaprabhu. That sometimes devotees do aparats. But he's so affectionate towards the devotees, and he said, give them another chance, give them another chance. That is Radharani's mood. That's the mother's mood. Right? The child is naughty, and the mother will keep making excuses for him. That it's not his fault that neighborhood kid is a rascal. Right? It's not his fault, he was tired. Give him another chance, give him another chance. So that is Mahaprabhu's mood. Another chance, another chance, another chance. So all we have to do is to take one of the opportunities that he gives us. And we are so fortunate that we have access to Srila Prabhupada and his representatives. I was reading a book called Future Prophecies. It's written by a person who is a Sri Vaishnava, but took initiation in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And he was talking about how the Alvars predict the appearance of Mahaprabhu. Right from the writings of Nam Alvar, who came 5,000 years ago, in his writings there is the prediction of Mahaprabhu as the most munificent incarnation. So towards the end of the Bhagavatam, when the whole Bhagavatam had been finished, everything that has to be said was said by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, and Maharaj Parikshit is waiting to give up his body. And at that time Sukadeva Goswami, he speaks this verse, which is a glimpse into our current age. He says, Kalera dosha nidhe rajan, astiya eka mahaguna, kitana deva krishnasya muktasam param vajet. That this age of Kali that is coming, Kalera dosha nidhe rajan, astiya ek mahaguna, it's full of faults. But there is one great guna, that kirtana deva krishnasya, that by chanting the name of Krishna, muktasam param vajet, two things will happen. That one will give up the sangha of the material world, and one will go on to the supreme destination. So Mahaprabhu, he would say, whenever he would meet somebody, he would say that Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Guru Krishna, Shikha. So those are the three instructions that Mahaprabhu has given us, that as followers of Mahaprabhu, we should try and internalize. Bolo Krishna, chant Krishna's name, Bhajo Krishna, worship the deity of Krishna, and Guru Krishna, Shikha, and teach others the glories of Krishna. So today is Mahaprabhu's birthday. So I don't know whether it's for birthdays, but I know for like marriages there is like a registry, right? Wherever people say, I want this gift, I want this gift. So Mahaprabhu has his registry in which there are these three items. Right? And if you have to give a gift to Mahaprabhu, then this is the most potent gift that we can give him. That we chant, that way we grow our roots that are deep. We worship the deities, worshipping of the deities, it helps us control our senses. And then we give Krishna to others. So I'll stop over here, see if there's any comments, discussion.
So, in Kali Yuga, is there any other incarnation of Krishna to happen?
In the age of Kali, is there any incarnation of Krishna? In the Bhavashya Purana is mentioned that towards the end of the age of Kali, Krishna will come as Kalki avatar, but he'll come in the mood of a Kshatriya at the time, even though he'll be born in a Brahmin family, and there his mood will be opposite of that of Mahaprabhu, that he will kill everybody. He will come with weapons, and those who are miscreants, those who are sinful, he will kill everybody. And the remaining small group of devotees, they will herald the beginning of the next Satyuga that appears in the next Chaturayuga.
Also, one more thing, you were saying that the yugas were Dwapara and Treta were flipped, like, when was that? Like, I didn't follow that.
So this particular Chatur Yuga is the Dwapar Yuga comes after Treta Yuga.
Yeah.
In the other Chatur Yugas, the Satyuga is followed by the Dwapar and then the Treta Yuga. Why they are flipped, that's a very, it's something to do, it's a combination of the astronomical fact and something that I could not understand. It's a kind of a complicated description, but the yugas are actually flipped in order to make the arrangements for Krishna as Swayam Bhagwan appearing. That much I could understand. Yeah? Yes, Prabhu.
We have two questions. In the very beginning of the lecture, that was Krishna, one of Krishna. You mentioned that people who have been purified of, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said people who have been purified of sinful activity will take to the chanting of the the mantra. And I can at least speak for myself. I'm not purified, but somehow or the other, the mercy, and I'm able to chant. So it seems like a contradiction because people who have been purified of sinful activities will take to the chanting. And I'm not purified, so how am I able to, somehow do a little chanting?
It's a good question. So the way I understand it is that we do not know what we were in our previous lives, at least consciously. So this point is made several times, that one who takes to the chanting of the holy name is understood to have given countless wealth in charity, served the Brahmins, performed yajnas, and then they become qualified to take to the chanting of the holy name. Because there are so many people that are approached. Right? There's this saying that you go to somebody and say chant, 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 and they'll say can't, can't, can't. Right? They just can't chant. Right? They can talk of anything and everything all the time. Some people are very learned, they can talk about very, very difficult subjects. But some people you say chant, and Prabhupada say, okay, Prabhu. There was a devotee who came to Anamat, and we met him in the temple, and he was just standing around there, and we asked him to come to our Namat, and we said, Prabhu, you should chant. And he said, how many rounds? And we said, you're supposed to chant 16 rounds, but chant with one round. And they said, okay. Within 2-3 months, he was chanting 16 rounds. Within a year, he was initiated. So, so it just, and there are other people who are coming we are running a Namat for 15 years now. There are people who are coming since then. But they're chanting. But they're like, very, very, it's like one step forward, one step backward. It's like So part of it is because of the purification that we have gone through in our previous lifetimes. Second part is that the mercy of Mahaprabhu coming through the devotees makes even the unqualified person qualified. That when a devotee asks a person to chant, then along with that instruction is also the mercy of the devotee that is coming through. It's also the potency of the devotee that's coming through. If you listen to Prabhupada memories, then there's one thing that is common in almost all the people who have interacted with Srila Prabhupada, is that when he told them something, it felt like it was the most important thing to do. Right? There's one devotee, he says that he was attending the classes on 22nd 2nd Avenue, and he said we didn't really know much what Swamiji was speaking about, because he had an accent, it was a heavy Bengali accent. Prabhupada would speak Sanskrit and English. He said, but this much I could understand, that whatever he was speaking about was very, very important. And why? Because of the potency of Prabhupada, right? You and I, we meet so many people and we say chant and then say, chalo bhai, chalo, right? Right? And Prabhupada met somebody, he met Hayagriv, they were crossing on the road with one another, and he had a 5-minute conversation, and next thing Hayagriva knows is that he has this big stack of Bhagavad Gita manuscript and he's typing them up, right? And he says, I didn't sign up for this, right? But he somehow felt that whatever Swamiji is doing is important. I have to assist him there, right? So when devotees request or when devotees ask, then their potency is also invested. When a Guru Maharaj asks us to do something, then even though we may not we think that difficult for us to do, but we will still surprise ourselves. We'll be able to do it. Because we are not acting on our Shakti. We are acting on his Shakti at the time.
And my second question was just regarding the last incarnation. Now Krishna says that whoever he kills, he gives liberation. When he comes as Kalki, correct me if I'm wrong again, when he annihilates, they don't get liberation, they get absorbed again in the, do they get absorbed
in the Brahmajyoti?
Or what I'm trying to say is that just like when he annihilates, when he causes dissolution of the whole world, everything gets absorbed in, everything goes back into the
Okay, I see what you mean.
So as Kalki, if he kills them, if I'm wrong, they're not going to get liberation. Am I wrong?
So two thoughts. One is that when Krishna kills, he can give liberation, he may not give liberation. Right? So one thing that we cannot apply to Krishna is a mechanized formula. Krishna kills equal to gets liberation. Right? Never happens that way. Why? Because Krishna is a person. He has a rasa with every individual being. He killed Shishupal, he didn't give liberation. Right? He gave him more than that. He said, now you're back into Vaikuntha as Jai Vijay. Some people he killed, they get merged in the Brahmajyoti as impersonal liberation. This is the question that is asked by Maharaj Yudhishthir in the 6th canto. Right? So Krishna does whatever is most appropriate. There's no rule or formula that somebody who is killed by Krishna has to get liberation. But the understanding is if somebody is important enough to be killed by Krishna, he's going to go somewhere. Right? How many people, Krishna got onto the chest of Kamsa and killed him, right? How many people who can get Krishna on their chest? Not many people can have that. Hiranyakashipu was on the lap of Narasimhadev. How many people have that? So one can understand when a person has reached that level that Krishna personally comes to kill them, it is because of something. If you read it's a little bit beyond the scope of the current discussion, but if you read the first chapter of the 6th canto, there is a fairly detailed description that how even through adverse commitment to Krishna, one can make progress. Yena tena prakarena mana Krishna niveshya sarvavidhi nishedya shor etayoreva kinkara. Yena tena prakarena. And one way or the other, through anger, through fear, through envy, if you're able to put your mind to Krishna, sarvavidhi nishedya, everything else, doing austerities, keeping fast, keeping in charity, etayoreva kinkara. Kinkara means slave. They are secondary to all of this. One of Prabhupada's favorite verses. Actually, Prabhupada kind of fabricated the verse from combining 2 to 3 verses, but Prabhupada's mood was there. Yena tena prakar mana Krishna. Somehow or the else, very strong teaching. Somehow or the else, when one is able to attract one's mind. That's why Prabhupada had so many festivals. People would criticize that, why do you have the Lord of the Universe traveling on the roads where people are smoking cigarettes and eating hot dogs and they're seeing Lord Jagannath. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he would have the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party. Right? And people would come into the bus where Radha Damodar, the Gita Nagari deities, they would be personally present over there. Right? And they would have pork and beef in their hand. And they would watch and Prabhupada said, good, very good. Right? Why? because Mana Krishna Niveshya. Some or the else. They've taken darshan of Krishna, they will go back to God. Maybe not in this lifetime, maybe not in the next lifetime, maybe a million lifetimes later on, but they will go back to God. And what bigger service can you give to another person? So, so I'm sorry I didn't answer your specific question. That what does Kalki do at that time? I don't know whether he gave everybody liberation or he just kills them and lets them take birth, takes birth again. But he does whatever he feels most appropriate to do. Is that okay? Yes, Madhu.
You explain about the three external reasons for the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The first one is Advaita Acharya's prayer, second is Yukta, and can you repeat the third one? Third reason I don't know.
Oh, third reason I said is as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Paritanaya sadhu navinashaya chadushna. We came to give association to his devotees and to destroy the quality of the demoniac qualities and others. So so it is said that Mahaprabhu towards the end of his manifest Leela, he said there are three places where you will always find me. That in that context, he said wherever Nityanand Prabhu is doing kirtan, whenever devotees associate in Shiva's Angan, and whenever Raghav Pandit cooks. So now we don't have the personalities there, but the understanding is wherever there is kirtan, wherever there is Vaishnav Sangha, and wherever there is Krishna Prasad, then Mahaprabhu is there. So he has come, and even though his manifest Leela is not there, but he's continuing to give us his association. Okay? Okay, so we'll stop now.
I'm asking them whether they have any question or comment.
We had a comment? Yes, Madhuri. No?
It's okay.
Okay. So if there's nothing more, we'll stop over here and what's next, Prabhu?
Yeah, what we'll do is a quick arti and then.
Because we have the Nitai Gora Sundara at our house today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
A quick arti and then prashad.